On the quiet planet of Valeria, sound was considered dangerous. The air was clean, the skies were calm, and the people spoke only in soft whispers. Music didn't exist there, not even as a word. To the Valerians, peace meant silence, and silence meant strength. But that peace was about to be broken. Jake, a human engineer from Earth, had come to Valeria to work on energy systems. He was kind, calm, and always respectful of alien ways, but he carried one small secret: a music player with Earth songs. He only played it when he was alone in his quarters using headphones. He never meant to offend anyone, but that day, something went wrong. His toolbox had a hidden speaker, and somehow it activated. A loud electric guitar scream blasted into the air, followed by pounding drums. It was a classic rock track from Earth, something wild, fast, and full of fire. The sound echoed across the marketplace like a bomb. Valerians froze in place, eyes wide, ears twitching in pain and confusion. Some dropped their baskets, others ran. Behind buildings and in the middle of it all stood Rin Kara, daughter of a respected elder. She was young, curious, and bold. When the sound hit her ears, she almost fell to the ground. It felt like fire entered her skull, like her brain was shaking. She screamed, covering her ears, but she didn't run. She stood her ground, eyes locked on the human. Jake quickly turned, the sound off, and raised both hands. "I'm so sorry," he said. "It was a mistake." But the alien guards were already there, weapons drawn, surrounding him. They shouted in Valerian language, calling it an attack. Jake tried to explain, but they didn't understand the concept of music. Rin Kara stepped forward, still breathing hard, her ears still ringing. "What was that?" she asked, her voice trembling but clear. Jake looked at her, surprised she was still standing. "That," he said slowly, "was a song." "A song," she repeated, confused. "You hurt everyone with it," she said. "That's not a song, it's a weapon." Jake shook his head. "It's not meant to hurt, I promise. It's something humans listen to." For joy, Rin Kara narrowed, her eyes trying to believe him. The crowd around them watched in silence, some angry, some scared, some just curious. "My ears still hurt," she whispered. "But my heart, it did something strange." Jake tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "It beat faster," she said, placing a hand on her chest. It felt like danger, but also like flying. Jake gave a small smile. "That's what music does. It makes your heart move." The guards didn't like the conversation. They ordered Jake to be taken in for questioning, but Rin Kara raised her hand and stopped them. "No," she said. "Let him go. I want to know more about this. Sound." Later that day, Rin Kara went to Jake's lab. She wore noise blockers and brought 2 guards with her. She didn't trust him yet, but her curiosity burned brighter than her fear. "I want to hear it again," she said. "But not so loud." Jake nodded, understanding the risk. He took out a pair of headphones and adjusted the volume. Then he played a softer song, something slow, still rock, but gentle. He handed the headphones to Rin Kara and stepped back. She took them, nervous, and slowly placed them over her ears. At first, nothing happened. Then the sound reached her. A soft guitar began to play, then a human voice began to sing, Rin Kara's. Eyes widened. The melody wasn't painful, it was beautiful. It wrapped around her like a warm wind, strange and wild. Her ears twitched, her fingers moved slightly. Her mind didn't know how to describe it, but her body responded anyway. When the song ended, she removed the headphones slowly. Her face showed confusion, wonder, and something close to hunger. "That was not like before," she said. "It didn't hurt." Jake smiled gently. "Because now it's at the right level." "I don't understand," Rin Kara whispered. "Why does it make me feel so much?" Jake looked at her, his eyes kind. "Because music is emotion with sound. It tells stories without words." She stared at the headphones, then at Jake. "I want to understand this more," she said. "But don't tell anyone. If the council hears, they'll think I'm corrupted." Jake nodded. "Your secret is safe with me." And just like that, a bond was formed between a human who loved music and an alien girl whose world had never heard it before. What began as a mistake had opened The first door to something louder than silence, to something deeper than peace, to the power of sound. Rinkara couldn't sleep that night. Her ears had stopped ringing, but her mind wouldn't rest. The memory of the sound, first violent, then strange, then beautiful, played again and again in her thoughts. She had lived her whole life in silence, believing noise was weakness. But now she wasn't sure anymore. The next morning, she stood outside Jake's lab, arms crossed, face serious. Jake looked up from his desk and blinked, surprised to see her. "Back so soon?" he asked, trying not to smile too wide. "I came for answers," she said. "But also, another listen." Jake raised his eyebrows. "You sure?" "I don't want to hurt your ears again," Rinkara nodded. "Only if it's safe." Jake held up a strange object with soft round pads. "These are headphones," he said. "They let only you hear the music." Rinkara eyed them with suspicion. "They look like earmuffs," Jake chuckled. "Pretty much, but smarter." She took the headphones carefully, turning them in her hands like a new weapon. Jake leaned forward and offered her a seat. "Today we go slow, soft, and safe," he promised. She sat down, the guards behind her tensed, watching Jake like hawks. He plugged the headphones into his player and picked a song, a gentle one full of smooth guitar and soft vocals. Then he placed the headphones over her ears. At first, she winced, ready for pain, but none came. The melody entered her ears like a stream flowing over smooth stones. Her fingers twitched again, her feet tapped slightly without her knowing. She closed her eyes, listening. Her mind saw colors, shapes, feelings, memories of sky, wind, her mother's voice, all blending with the music. When it ended, she opened her eyes slowly. Jake waited, silent, curious, hopeful. "That was confusing," she said at last. "I didn't understand the words, but it made me want to cry." "That's normal," Jake replied. "Music speaks to the heart, not always the mind." "I don't like not understanding," she whispered. "But I also don't want to stop." Jake smiled. "You don't have to stop." Rinkara handed the headphones back but paused. "No one can know about this," she said. "Not yet. If the elders find out I'm enjoying human noise, I'll be punished." Jake nodded. "Then we keep it between us. I'll prepare more songs, all safe levels, different styles, and if you ever want to stop, just say so." Rinkara stood, her expression unreadable. "You said music tells stories," she said. "Then I want to learn these stories one by one. And if I find even one lie, I'll never come back," Jake agreed. And so their secret deal began. He called it the earmuff deal, but only to himself. Every few days, Rinkara returned, each time braver, asking questions. "Why do the voices scream? What is a drum solo? Why does the guitar sound like it's crying?" Jake tried to explain, but most of the time, she figured things out faster on her own. She had sharp ears, sharper than any human. She began to recognize beats, predict changes, even hum along softly. One day, Jake handed her a small portable player and custom-made headphones shaped to fit her alien ears. "For practice," he said, "so you can listen even when I'm not around." Her hands trembled as she took it. "It's a gift," Jake added. "No strings." She looked him in the eyes, serious. "On my world, gifts are sacred," she said. "If I accept this, I must protect it with honor." Jake nodded. "Then protect it well." That night, under the cover of darkness, Rinkara lay in her private quarters. She pressed the button on the small player, and music flowed again. No one else heard it, only her. She wrapped herself in a blanket, listening, eyes open, staring at the stars beyond her window. The stars didn't look silent anymore. Now they seemed to sing. The next morning, things changed. She walked differently, confident, like there was a secret flame inside her. When she passed other Valarians, they looked confused. Something was different. They couldn't say what, but her rhythm had changed. Rinkara didn't notice, or maybe she didn't care. The music inside her was louder than their stares, louder than their silence, louder than her fear. She started tapping her fingers on walls, on tables, on her legs. Her guards began whispering among themselves. The council started watching her more closely. But Rinkara didn't stop. She was careful, but not ashamed. The sound that once hurt her now helped her feel alive, and though she didn't fully understand it, she wanted more. More songs, more stories, more of the strange fire that made her heart race and her soul stir. She wasn't ready to call it love, but deep down she knew. Something had started, something loud, wild, and dangerous. Something very human. And in the silence of her world, that first beat was beginning to grow. The nights on Valeria were usually quiet. So quiet that even the flutter of a night moth could echo through a street. But tonight, one room glowed faintly in the research zone. Inside it, Rinkara stood alone in Jake's lab, heart pounding, hands shaking just slightly. She had waited until the guards changed shift. Then she had quietly entered with the security card Jake once used when he forgot it inside her room. She didn't steal it, she told herself. She just borrowed it just for tonight, just for the music. Jake had left his equipment powered down, as always, but Rinkara had watched him work too many times. She knew which button started the console, which file had the songs. Her fingers moved fast, too fast for someone who once called music dangerous. The screen lit up and a list appeared, each title strange and exciting. Highway to Hell, Bohemian Rhapsody, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Her eyes widened at the bold names. What kind of stories were these? She clicked on one at random. Welcome to the Jungle. The first note hit her like fire. Guitars screamed, the rhythm charged forward like a stampede. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened slightly. It should have hurt, but it didn't. It filled her with adrenaline, like she was running through a wild forest with no rules, no boundaries, no silence, just chaos and rhythm. Her head started nodding. Slow at first, then faster. She didn't understand the words, but she felt them. The human voice wasn't just speaking, it was growling, howling, living. It wasn't just sound anymore, it was emotion. When the song ended, she gasped for breath like she had run a long distance, then, without thinking, she clicked another. Thunderstruck. This one hit her differently, sharper, more electric. It made her blood rush and her toes tap like she was dancing without moving. She played another, and another. Each one took her to a different place. One made her want to fight. Another made her want to cry. One song made her feel like flying. Another made her want to scream. And through it all, she never stopped listening. Then, the door opened. Rinkara froze. Jake stood there in the doorway, surprised but not angry. He walked in slowly, placing his bag down. I figured you'd be here, he said softly. Rinkara lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. Jake shook his head. Don't be. I'm not mad. I'm actually proud. She looked up, surprised. Proud. You broke into my lab. Jake smiled. You risked a lot, just for sound. That tells me something. She stayed silent, unsure what to say. Jake walked over and looked at the playlist on the screen. Ah, he said. You found the rock legends. She nodded slowly. They're powerful. He chuckled. That's one word for it. She turned toward him, her voice serious. Why do humans create such music? It's not logical, it's messy, loud, even painful at times. Jake leaned on the table and said, because life is messy, loud, and painful too. We don't always make music to feel good, he explained. Sometimes we make it to survive, to release, to scream without screaming. It's how we heal, how we fight, how we live. Rinkara looked at her hands, still shaking from the last song. It feels dangerous, she whispered. Jake nodded. It is. But sometimes danger is where change begins. She looked back at the playlist and scrolled down. There were hundreds more she hadn't even touched. She felt like she had opened a gate to a new world. A world filled with rhythm, rawness, and rebellion. Jake picked up a small drive and handed it to her. It's yours, he said. I loaded a private playlist for you. Rinkara hesitated. Won't they trace it? Jake shook his head. Encrypted, untraceable, and disguised as a weather report. Trust me, he added. I've had to hide music before. She took the drive and held it tightly. You do this for all your friends? She asked Jake, smiled. Only the ones brave enough to steal into my lab at midnight. Rinkara almost smiled, but then her face grew serious. The council is watching me, she said. I can feel it. Jake nodded. They fear what they don't understand. But music doesn't ask for permission, he paused, then added. Are you ready to go deeper? She blinked. Deeper? Jake grinned. There's more than rock. There's metal, blues, punk, grunge, jazz, each one a different planet, each one waiting to explode in your ears. She laughed quietly. Then show me the way. And so in that silent alien world, the human and the girl made a pact, not with words or paper, but with beats, riffs, and the sound of rebellion. The stars above Valeria still shined quietly, but inside Rinkara's heart, a storm had started. A storm of sound that no council, no elder, no ancient law could stop. Her playlist was no longer just a secret, it was a fire, a revolution waiting to be heard. Rinkara had changed, everyone noticed it, even if they didn't know why. She still walked the same streets, wore the same robes, and ate the same food, but her steps had rhythm now, like she was moving to a beat no one else could hear. She tapped her fingers on stone railings. She swayed her head slightly when no one was watching. Her lips sometimes moved as if whispering words not in any Valerian language. The elders grew suspicious. One of them said, She hums like a broken machine. Another said, There is fire in her eyes. It must be human influence. They called her in for questioning. She stood before the council chamber, tall and silent. The walls were covered in sacred silence. No sound dared to echo in that hall. Rinkara, the first elder said, We sense unrest in you. You walk with strange energy. You speak with strange words. Tell us, child, have you been corrupted by the humans? She didn't flinch. I have listened, she said quietly. And I have learned. There is something in them. Something powerful. The elders exchanged glances, their faces cold. What have you listened to? One of them asked sharply. Rinkara hesitated, then said, Music. The word fell like a stone into a silent pond. Ripples of shock moved through the room. Music is not welcome on Valeria, the first elder said. It is noise, it is danger, it is rebellion. Rinkara looked down, then up again, her voice grew stronger. It is life, she said, it is feeling. It woke something inside me that I didn't know was asleep. Enough, another elder snapped. You will hand over all human devices. You will go through cleansing. You will be restored to silence. She clenched her fists, her breath shaking. I refuse, she whispered. The room froze. Valerians never disobeyed the council. Not openly. Not like this. You. What? The first elder said, leaning forward. I refuse, Rinkara repeated, louder this time. I will not let you take the only thing that made me feel real. They stood in shock. The guard stepped forward, but she didn't move. I don't fear you, she said. Not anymore. That night she ran out of the council's reach, away from their silence, to the only place she felt safe, Jake's workshop. He was already waiting, as if he knew she'd come. They found out, he asked. She nodded, eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. They tried to take it all, she said. They tried to silence me again. Jake pulled out 2 chairs and placed a speaker between them. Then let's be loud, he said. He handed her an instrument, half guitar, half alien tech. She took it, her hands trembling. He turned on the speaker. Try this, he said, pressing play. A rock riff echoed through the room, low, steady, powerful. She closed her eyes, let the beat sink into her bones. Then she strummed the strings, awkward at first. Her fingers were used to silence, not sound. But soon the notes began to form a pattern. Not perfect, but raw, real, alive. Jake watched her, amazed. She's not just listening anymore, he thought. She's creating, and she was. With each strum, she built a wall between her and the past, a wall made of rhythm and fire. A wall no elder could break. They practiced for hours. She learned chords. He taught rhythm. Her ears were fast learners, faster than any humans. Soon she was riffing without help, closing her eyes and letting the sound guide her. Then the idea came. Jake said, "Let's play for others." Rinkara blinked. "In public?" He nodded. "Yes. Let them hear it too." She hesitated. "They'll call it treason." Jake shrugged. "Or they'll call it truth." So they prepared. In an abandoned dome near the city edge, they set up an open space, no stage, no lights, just them and the sound. Jake fixed the speakers. Rinkara tuned her instrument and then they played. At first, only silence listened, but slowly footsteps echoed outside. Valerian youth peeked in, curious and wide-eyed. They didn't understand what they were seeing, but they felt it. One boy tapped his foot. A girl swayed slightly, and Rinkara saw it. The same fire that had awakened in her. Now glowing in them, she smiled and played louder, letting the riffs carry her soul. She was no longer hiding. She was no longer afraid. She was caught in the riff and she didn't want to be free. Rinkara sat alone under the broken dome ceiling. The stars above Valeria glowed like a quiet sea of diamonds. But inside her chest, a storm of sound and fire kept pulsing. She had played for a crowd, even if it was small, even if they had been afraid. They had heard her, and that changed everything. Jake walked in with a tired smile and 2 cups of something warm. "You really shook them tonight," he said, handing her one. She looked at the drink, then up at him. "I didn't think they'd come." Jake sat beside her. "They didn't come for me. They came for you." Rinkara sipped slowly, then whispered, "Why does it feel like I started something I can't stop?" Jake chuckled softly. "Because you did." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small metal badge. It had a symbol on it. "Half guitar, half star. You've got fans now," he said. "A few kids made this after the show." She stared at the badge, her throat tight. "Fans?" she repeated, confused. Jake nodded. "People who admire you? People who want to be like you? But I'm just..." She paused. "I'm just someone who heard a strange sound and didn't run." Jake grinned. "That's exactly what a rock star is." The next day, Rinkara returned to the dome early, but she wasn't alone for long. 1, then 2, then 12 young aliens showed up. Some carried sticks pretending to be instruments. Some brought notebooks full of strange symbols. They had all seen her play. Now they wanted to learn. At first she hesitated. She wasn't a teacher and she barely knew what she was doing, but then she remembered how Jake had helped her step by step. So she smiled and said, "Let's make noise." Days passed. Then weeks, every evening the dome, filled with strange sounds. Bad notes, broken chords, laughter, shouting, rhythm, energy. Jake helped when he could, building speakers from scrap and sharing old Earth tracks. The kids tried everything, rock, blues, even rap. Sometimes it was terrible, sometimes it was magic, and always Rinkara led them, with fire in her eyes and thunder in her hands. One night, a girl named Seli played a perfect solo. Everyone clapped, and Rinkara smiled wide. "You've got the sound in your blood now," she said. Seli beamed. "I want to play for the whole city someday." Rinkara looked around and realized something. This wasn't just music anymore. This was a movement. It was growing louder, but danger was close too. A spy from the council had followed one of the students. He hid outside the dome, listening to the noise, recording every beat. When he returned to the elders, his face was pale. "The silence is breaking," he said, "and she's leading them." The council gathered that same night. "The girl must be stopped," one elder said, "before her sound becomes our downfall. Music is not welcome on Valeria." Another agreed. They voted in secret and passed a new law. All human sound is banned. Any Valerian caught with a player, a speaker, or a song would be punished. The next morning, soldiers entered the research zone. They smashed Jake's old lab, seized his files, tore down speakers. They stormed the dome. But by then, Rinkara was already gone. Jake found her near the canyon edge, staring at the empty sky. "They're calling you a criminal now," he said softly. She didn't reply, just clutched the badge the children gave her. "They don't fear me," she said. "They fear what I represent." Jake nodded. "You gave them sound. You gave them choice. And now they're awake." "I'm not a warrior," Rinkara whispered. "I don't want to fight. But I can't go back. Jake looked at her and said something he'd never said before. Then be louder. She blinked. What? He smiled. You don't have to fight with fists. Fight with chords, with lyrics, with sound. Be the voice they tried to silence, he added. Be the song they fear. That night, a secret message spread across Valeria, passed from child to child, from whisper to whisper. She will return, it said, and she will sing, and under the starlit sky, Rin-Kara tuned her alien guitar, one note at a time. She wasn't just the girl who listened anymore. She was the one who played, the one who led, the one who dared. An alien rock star, and her greatest song was still waiting to be heard. The news spread across Valeria like fire through dry leaves. All human music is banned, the message said. Devices will be destroyed, violators punished. The silence was not just a rule anymore, it had become a weapon. The domes, once filled with music, were now empty and watched by guards. Jake was ordered to leave the city within a day, and anyone seen with him was marked as a traitor. But what? The council didn't know, couldn't imagine, was that the silence had come too late. The songs were already alive, in minds, in hearts, in humming voices and tapping fingers. They couldn't erase the rhythm that now lived in the people. And at the center of it all was Rin-Kara, hidden far outside the city, practicing every day, not just to play, but to fight. Jake stood beside her, holding a dusty old amplifier. This might still work, he said, brushing off a cracked wire. Rin-Kara tightened her grip on her alien electric guitar. Then we give them something they'll never forget, she replied. They chose the old council steps for the concert. Bold, forbidden, visible. It was the one place no one had ever dared to make a sound. Now it would become their stage. Rin-Kara sent a message through hidden channels. Just one line. Meet me at the silence. The youth understood. No time, no plan. Just trust and rhythm. The night before the concert, Jake looked at her. If they arrest you, he said quietly. What then? She smiled softly. Then I'll play louder in their prison. The day arrived. Gray clouds filled the sky. The council guards stood ready, weapons holstered, eyes sharp. Citizens gathered at a distance, whispering, unsure what to expect. Then, they heard it. A single guitar string echoed from above the steps. Sharp, clear, defiant, Rin-Kara stood tall in her dark robe, the guitar glowing with alien energy. Jake stood behind her, holding the speaker like a shield. For a long moment, the city stood still. Then she strummed the first chord. It hit the air. Like thunder, deep, angry, alive, and the silence shattered. The guards moved forward, but the crowd stopped them. A wall of people, young and old, stood between the soldiers and the stage. No one shouted, no one pushed. They simply listened. Rin-Kara began to sing, not in human tongue, not in Valerian words, but in pure sound, a blend of her people's tone and Earth's wild emotion. It was raw, it was strange, it was beautiful. The music poured down the steps like a river of rebellion. Some in the crowd started humming. Others clapped, some even cried. The guards looked at each other, unsure. This wasn't violence, it was just sound, but it was stronger than any weapon. An elder appeared on the balcony, his voice booming through the speaker systems. Stop this. Madness now, he commanded. This is illegal. Rin-Kara raised her eyes, still strumming. Then arrest me, she said. But first listen. She played the next verse, soft and sorrowful, a song about fear, about loneliness, about being silenced, and about finding a voice. Her voice. The elder didn't speak again. He just listened, and his eyes, once filled with control, now showed something else. Doubt. Jake turned up the volume as the chorus came. The sound filled every corner of the city, from the markets to the mountain edge, from the temples to the school domes. Every Valerian heard it. The rebellion had no weapons, no armies, just one girl, one guitar, and a truth too loud to ignore. By the end of the song, the crowd was cheering, not with shouts, but with stomps, claps, and rhythm. They didn't need to. Speak the music said everything. Rin-Kara bowed, her hands shaking, sweat on her forehead. But her heart had never felt more steady. One guard stepped forward, unsure, but then he clapped too. That one clap broke the final wall. The guards lowered their hands, the elders turned away in silence, and the people claimed the sound as their own. That night, the streets of Valaria were filled with music, not from players or speakers, but from voices, soft songs, quiet drums, gentle hums. They weren't loud yet, but they were free. And at the center of it all stood Rinkara, not just a girl with a guitar, but a leader, a symbol, a rock star who had played her song not for fame but for freedom. Years had passed since the day music rose on the silent steps of Valeria. But the sound didn't stay there. It traveled like light through space, like a whisper across time. What started as one girl's rebellion became a movement too loud to stop. Rinkara was no longer just a name, she was a symbol, a melody, a force that could not be silenced. And now her story echoed far beyond her homeworld. It reached satellites, trade routes, spaceports, and hearts. Other alien races, once suspicious of humans, began asking questions. What is this thing called music? Why did it cause such a change on Valaria? Can it do the same for us? Soon, recordings of her first concert leaked into the galactic web. The sounds were strange to some, beautiful to others, but no one could ignore it. Ambassadors requested meetings, not to discuss weapons, but instruments. Musicians from Earth were invited to alien cities. Young aliens, some with 4 arms, some with glowing skin, some with no mouths at all, began experimenting with vibration, light, and tone. Music was no longer a human thing. It was becoming something bigger, something universal. Rinkara stood on the edge of a new concert platform orbiting a moon colony. She looked out at thousands of beings from dozens of worlds. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles. Others sat on crystal benches, all waiting, all watching. Jake walked up beside her, his beard now a little gray, his smile just as warm. "You ready for this?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I don't know what they expect." Jake laughed, then surprised them. She stepped forward, her alien electric guitar shining under starlight. There were no guards now, no laws against sound, only the hum of anticipation, the breath of galaxies waiting for a song. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and let her fingers begin. The first note was soft, a memory. The second was bold, a challenge. Then came the rhythm, heavy and alive. The crowd didn't understand the lyrics, but they felt the truth. It was a song about her journey, from fear to fire, from silence to sound, and even the stars seemed to pulse with the beat. Some aliens clapped with tentacles, others with wings. One species used color flashes to show joy. Another changed the rhythm of their breathing. But they all joined the song in their own way. Rinkara played louder. She played for the girl she used to be, for the children back on Valaria who still whispered lyrics in the dark, for the council that once feared her, and for the silence that had lost its crown after the final note. The entire arena held its breath. Then came the sound. Soft at first, then rising, applause, cheers, light bursts, voice pulses, sound waves, every species expressing thanks in their own way. She bowed deeply, then turned to Jake. "It worked," she whispered. Jake smiled. "It always does." Later, in a quiet lounge, on the ship, she looked at an old badge, a small metal symbol of a guitar and star. The first gift she ever received from her fans. She still carried it always. A young alien child approached, nervous. She had blue skin and wide eyes. "Miss Rinkara?" she asked. "Can I show you something?" Rinkara smiled gently. "Of course." The girl held out a strange round object, part crystal, part string, part vibrating light. "I made this," the girl said. It's my first instrument." Rinkara touched it and nodded. "It sings," she said softly. The girl's eyes lit up. "I want to be like you one day." Rinkara knelt down. "No," she said. "Be louder than me. Be braver, be bolder." The child nodded and ran off, clutching the instrument close. Jake walked over, watching the child disappear into the hallway. "You've started something that will never end," he said. Rinkara looked out the window at the stars. "Good," she said. "Let it echo forever." And it did. Across planets and moons, through dust and nebula, the sound of her guitar echoed in unexpected places, in war zones to calm fighters, in hospitals to comfort the weak, in schools to teach, not just facts, but feeling. Valeria, once known as the world of silence, was now called the world of sound, a place where rhythm was life and music was memory, and at the center of it all, written in every history file, was the story of the alien girl who thought hard rock would destroy her ears but ended up loving it so much. She used it to change the galaxy,